Hello and welcome to Mystery Us. I'm Tony Pratt, your host for Mystery Us. And today we have a very fascinating topic and guest, Mr. Leroy Blevins Sr. This is for part 2 of our show on the JFK Assassination Report, 13 Shots book, which he is the author of. Welcome back to Mystery Us, Leroy.
Thank you for having me back.
And we were talking about these 3 tramps before that you have ID'd as 2 of them as the Grassy Knoll gunmen.
Yes.
Now you had mentioned that the gunman inside the shelter number 3 on the Grassy Knoll fired from the 3rd window up.
Yeah.
Which is about 7 or 8 feet up in the air. So what is your theory on how he did that?
Well, to me, if you look at the picture of the 3 tramps, you'll see that the older gentleman, the oldest tramp, he has dirt on his knees.
Right.
He has dirt on his upper pants.
In the front of the limo, and I don't know, did the Secret Service agent put it on Governor Connolly's stretcher where it was later found, or how
honestly, I think that bullet actually, I actually think came from one of the bullets probably struck the grass area. Because there wasn't that much. The bullet was deformed a little bit, and it did have a small dent in the top of it. But the bullets that they found in the limo did not be the ones they put on the stretcher.
Right.
I think that was just another bullet they found somewhere in the grass area that either struck the concrete of the manhole cover or the 2 shots that struck the grass area.
Okay, now you you identify the gunmen on the Grassy Knoll as being associated with 3 men who have become known as the 3 tramps.
Yeah.
Right. And now, how did you determine that these two out of these 3 men are the same as the gunmen?
Well, one, when I was colorizing the image of the tramps, there was a marking on the lapel.
Right.
On one of his leg there, from when he wiped his hands off. He could have been standing on his hands and knees while the gunman stand on his back, and he looked out the top window, and then he came down and took the shot to JFK, which you can get a clear shot. It's already been done before. I had somebody in Dallas, which took a picture for me of the view of the gunman, and the view that the gunman had when he took the shot to JFK.
Now these 3 tramps, there's 7 pictures taken by 3 different news organizations that show the 3 tramps.
Yeah.
And they were arrested, and they were kind of, in the pictures, they looked like they were under a very loose escort. I mean, the police are way in front of them, way in back of them. They don't seem like they're really arresting them. That it looks kind of lax. I mean, I've never seen that kind of arrest. I used to be a state cop here in Tennessee, and when we arrest somebody, we don't arrest them like that.
Well, they also had manicures. 2 of them did. They had their nails manicured. They had nice new clothes on. Shoes was all polished.
That's my kind of tramp. I mean.
Yeah.
And the Dallas police did not release this alleged identities of these 3 men until 1989. Okay, that's a long time to wait to find out who these guys supposedly are. And they were, one of the guys was dead by the time they released the information, and the other 2 were upstanding citizens of their community.
Yeah, and they also claimed that they actually served 6 days.
Okay.
They also claimed that they served 6 days, but like you said, there's no evidence that actually shows they was there for 6 days, because even though they have police records, but documentation can always be altered in any way, but there's no photographs of them.
Right.
You know, and like you said, when someone gets arrested for something, that's one thing they do, is they take your photograph.
Always, since the early 1900s, since they've had photography, they've always done that. So, that's one set of identities, which is, I guess, identified as Gus Abrams and Harold Doyle and Gedney. Abrams, Doyle, and Gedney are these 3 supposed tramps according to the police information that they released. However, Lois Gibson, who's a forensic artist and the most successful crime solver ever in the Guinness Book of World Records.
Yes.
She works for the Houston Police Department, and she's basically one of these artists that can draw somebody, even what they will look like years later, and,
Yeah.
and try to match them up to evidence. She claims that that the tree tramps are three known nefarious kind of people with CIA connections. One of them being Charles Harrelson that we mentioned
Yeah.
before, actor Woody Harrelson's father. Now he actually was arrested for killing a federal judge.
Yeah.
And by the time they arrested him, and I guess he was hired by drug dealers to kill the judge.
Yeah.
And they paid him $250,000. But by the time he was walking into the building where they were arresting him, the name of the judge, Judge Woods, was the name of the building.
Yeah.
So, but he seemed all calm and collected, and they said, "Why are you so calm?" He said, "Well, why should I worry about killing the federal judge when I've already assassinated a president?"
Yeah.
Which, you know, that could be an off-the-wall comment, except for the fact that he actually testified, a sworn statement to that effect, which he later recanted, saying that he was on cocaine and anybody in their right mind would never admit to killing the president.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't know, and so he was a nefarious guy, and then the first tramp in the order of, when you see the picture, is a guy named Frenchie, and the third tramp, Marvin Chauncey Holt, claimed, and he identified the second guy as Charles Harrelson,
Yeah.
who, like you said, was the brother-in-law of
Oswald.
Oswald.
Mm-hmm. He was married to Oswald's sister, Dorothy.
Okay. How did they meet? You don't know how they met, or?
No, because they really don't talk about it that much.
Mm-hmm.
And I guess the reasons why and stuff because of Woody Harrelson, you know.
Yeah.
But yeah, he was Oswald's brother-in-law. He was married to Oswald's sister, and you know that was a good connection right there.
Right. So those could have been two guys that could have worked together, or
Mm-hmm.
they knew each other and both connected to the government. Well, I don't know if Charles Harrelson was connected to the government, but the other guy claimed that he came into town with the Marvin Chauncey Holt claimed that he came into town with some known mafia names.
Yeah.
Was that Charles Nicoletti, and I forget the name. Anyway, whatever it is, he claimed that he was involved in the assassination, which nobody believed him.
Mm-hmm.
But he was also a former circus performer in his early life, so he could have been the guy, definitely, that they stood on the back of to balance to fire the shots.
Yeah.
Now, in the book, you don't say, you know, whether you think this guy or that guy was the identity of the three tramps. Do you have a theory of who you think the three tramps were? Do you think it was Harrelson, or do you think
Honestly, it could have been any of them.
could have been any of them?
Because the profiles do fit a lot of them.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of similarities to what they was even saying as well.
Right.
So to actually pick on who that person really was,
Right.
it's hard to tell.
Yeah.
Just like when, like documentations, when people does documentations, reports, and everything else, I have a hard time believing most of that stuff because it's more of a hearsay
Right.
than when we go back with the images. Because if you actually look at it, just like when they brought up, there's one image in here, if you look at it, it does look like, actually, it looks like Governor Conley.
Mhm.
But it wasn't Governor Conley because we know Governor Conley was
Right.
already shot and he was at the hospital.
Right.
But this guy looked like Governor Conley.
Mm-hmm.
So anybody can be mistaken for another person. Just like the older tramp they claimed was Hunt,
Right.
E. Howard Hunt.
E. Howard Hunt was a CIA man.
Yeah,
Right.
but actually when you look at both of them, E. Howard Hunt was looks more younger than the tramp did. Tramp
Mhm.
looked a lot more older.
Right.
Now there is one guy that I did see in one of the images that's in the book that actually looks like E. Howard Hunt. Because,
So he was possibly present that day. He
Yes.
just wasn't one of the tramps.
yeah, because you
Right.
can see him with the overcoat on and the same hat, and he's even wearing the hat the same way.
Right.
The ears are looking the same. You know, the jawline looks the same.
Mm-hmm.
So it actually looks more like E. Howard Hunt, that man did, than the tramp did.
Right, and I've seen where that some people try to claim that George Herbert Walker Bush was present that day.
Yeah.
And there's some images that looks like him and looks like the kind of suits he wears and everything, but yet he has, over the years, actually give 3 different stories as to where he wasn't there, that he was somewhere else.
Mm-hmm.
That seems suspicious, that he would make up different stories. He wouldn't stick with the same story that...
Well, that's what, again, you know, it all depends on who told the story. Well, they're saying he told the story, but was anything added on to it?
Right.
That's what we got to look at as well.
Yeah.
Because when I looked at that image of supposed to be George Bush, it didn't look like him.
Didn't look like him.
No, because even the hairline wasn't lining up right. The earlobes wasn't lining up right.
Right.
So, like I said, anybody can look like people. They always said that people has a twin out there
Right.
somewhere.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of people it does look like. So to actually specifically say that's George Bush or that's E. Howard Hunt or this, it's kind of hard to tell.
Right, and they had forensic anthropologists in a photographic panel that determined that certain people who were suspected of being the tramps, Frank Sturgis of Watergate fame,
Mm-hmm.
and some others, they said they couldn't be them. They don't look like the tramps at all.
Well, just like the man in the doorway.
Right.
Okay, they claimed that was Oswald.
Right, that there were 2 Oswalds, yeah.
Mm-hmm. But that really wasn't Oswald. That was Mr. Lovelady, Billy Lovelady.
Right,
That's who that was in the doorway. But
Mhm.
everybody says, no, that's Oswald.
right,
But when we look at even Oswald's testimony, he says, I was on the 2nd floor eating a
Yeah.
cheese sandwich.
right.
So either Oswald was lying or somebody
Right.
else is lying, you know.
Right, and the guy looks a little bit like him, probably, you know, if you just saw it, separate pictures, but if you compare the pictures at all.
Well, if you actually look at other films, that's why I look at other
And that
films
was from
too.
the Altgens photo, right?
Yeah.
That Altgens photo has several conspiracy theories, and this is not just conspiracy theory central, where, you know, you're just going crazy and you just believe everything, whatever.
Mhm.
You know, you actually debunk and clear up a lot of false claims that have been made over the years
Mhm.
about the assassination that were wrong. For example, one of the famous ones is that Secret Service agent William Greer, who was the driver of the limo,
Mhm.
actually turned and fired a weapon with his left hand
Mhm.
to JFK.
Yeah.
And what was that? What was that about, really?
Actually, they said he turned around and he could see with the gun in his hand when he
Yeah.
shot. That's when JFK's head exploded.
Right.
But they're just pointing out, it all depends what frames you're actually looking at. See, my copies I get is mostly close to the originals.
Mm-hmm.
Just like Zapruder film is actually
Yeah.
like the first copies of them. When you go through the film and you zoom in, you'll see both of the driver's hands, one's here, one's down here.
Right.
And the gun that they're pointing out is actually the sun reflecting off the guy's sitting in the passenger seat, his hairline.
Right. Secret Service agent Roy Kellerman
Oh, yeah.
is the passenger there, and so because he turns his head to look back at the same time, and you can see the sun's. It's kind of like his hand. If he had turned with a gun,
Mhm.
his hand would have been at the same level at the top of this guy's head. So
Yeah.
it's actually just the sun reflecting off the guy's head.
Yeah.
And he does seem to like cringe or something.
That's because a bullet.
Maybe he heard a shot or.
Well, no, remember, because there's, like I said, when JFK was shot in the side of the head, he was shot also in the back of the head right after it.
Right, at the same time.
And that bullet came through and struck inside of the windshield.
Now, the back of the head shot was from Oswald,
One of them.
one of them.
Mhm.
One of them was from the second shot of the day was from the rooftop of the records building, but the 5th shot was Oswald's second shot, and that's
Mhm.
the one right after the famous shot where his head exploded on the right.
Mm-hmm.
1/100th of a second later, Oswald's second shot just kind of passed through.
Yeah, struck JFK in the back of the skull, but since it was already gone, it just went through and
Right.
struck the inside of the windshield.
And so that's where the fragment got on the inside of the windshield.
Mhm.
Okay. Then, so a lot of these, there's 13 total shots, and different people reported hearing different numbers of shots.
Mhm.
And you've determined that it's based on where the position of the person was standing, because they could hear differently in different positions. In certain positions, they could hear more shots,
Yeah.
and in other positions, they would hear less shots.
Mhm.
And with some shots coming at the same time, or so close to be in succession, that you wouldn't hear all the shots.
Yeah.
So, where would people be standing that they would hear the most shots?
Well, actually, like I said, when I did my investigation, okay, like I said, not only I did research, but I also did investigation at the same time.
Mm-hmm.
We had to take consideration that when we're on ground level,
Right.
and Dealey Plaza might seem like it's big, but it's actually a small place,
Yeah.
and it's more of an echo chamber.
Yeah.
Now you have the sounds of motorcycles going through there.
Mm-hmm.
You got different cars and buses coming through there. You got
Right.
crowds screaming up a storm. Police sirens is going off, The shots most of the shots they heard was either shots that are at the same level as they are, but the other shots could be missed where they couldn't hear because, like the gunman on the rooftop of the records building,
Mhm.
he's way above the people.
Right.
Okay, and there's nothing for his sound that actually bounce off for it to catch.
Yeah.
Oswald, he's inside, so most of the sound that he's going to have is on the inside of the building, and all you're going to hear is like a pop.
Mm-hmm.
Now, the two shots that came from the grassy knoll, which is where Mr. Spruta standing from shelter number 3, them was the only two shots you're mostly going to hear because they're at ground level. But if you was going to, like if I was on the corner of Houston and Elm, I would hear them two shots there, plus the murmur and probably about 3 or 4. So if I was on the corner of Elm and Houston, I would probably hear total 4 or 5 shots.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of people claim they heard that. If I was closer to where Bill Newman and his family was, I'll probably hear 2 shots. Or when James Tague was standing,
Mm-hmm.
I would hear 2 shots.
Yeah.
Now, if I was right over on the other side of Elm Street, okay, where in front of Texas School Book Depository, I would have heard about 6 or 7 shots, which some eyewitnesses claim they did.
Mm-hmm.
So it all depends on what location that you're at that you can hear these shots.
Right.
And like I said, the only shots that Governor Connolly heard was the 2 shots coming from the grassy knoll.
Right.
That's why he said he wasn't struck by the first one. The first one, he seen JFK's head explode. The second one, as he was turned to his left, he felt the blow to his back.
Right. Now, you in your examination of the photographic evidence, you show in the films and images, and there's links in the book where they can actually go watch the films
Mhm.
too, and also other research where you're showing, on YouTube,
Mhm.
some of your research that you've done on this stuff. But you actually show, we see the gunman, we see the rooftop records guy, we don't see his face like we do the grassy knoll gunman,
Mhm.
but we see all of those 3 gunmen that they are there. Now, we don't see Oswald. No, so, but you have another way that you determined that Oswald probably was the actual shooter in this 6th floor of the Texas School Book Depository building.
Yeah.
Now, how is that?
Well, last year, my friend Guy Cooper, he was watching a video,
Mm-hmm.
and he contacted me. He says, "Can you take a look at this video? Because it looked like there's a fingerprint or something on this bullet casing." And I said, "Okay." So I took a look at it, and I said, "Well, is there any possible way I can get the images that's in this video?" He contacted me back. He says, he said, "You can get them right here." There was actually at the National Archives.
Mm-hmm.
So I got a copy of the
And those
images.
are FBI images, or?
That's
Right.
the only ones you're going to be able to see. Like if you want to see the bullet casings and say, well, you can look at these images here, but you can't, look at the bullet casings
Mhm.
itself. So I got copies of them, and as I was analyzing them, I found a fingerprint on one of the bullet casings.
Mm-hmm.
So I turned it up the way the bullet casing was, so I can get a proper print. Well, what I did was, instead of, they always claimed Oswald was the gunman, so I
Mhm.
started with him.
Right.
So I took every one of his fingerprints
Mm-hmm.
and I overlaid it and trying to line them up. None of his fingerprints will match except for one, which would be his right thumbprint.
Right.
When I overlaid Oswald's right thumbprint over the print that's on the bullet casing, it's a match.
Mm.
So I asked my friends who works in forensics to take a look at it for me and see what his opinion is on it. And he came up with 99.99% that is Oswald's right thumbprint as well.
Right. So when he ejected those bullet casings, or when he put the bullets in,
When he was loading it up.
when he was loading it, that's when he would have put the
Yeah, it's like,
thumbprint on
okay,
there.
so let me take your pen here.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, okay, which is, when you got to say this is the bullet, and I'm going down like this, I'm loading to the clip. That's all I got was a partial thumbprint
Right,
anyway.
just pushes it in there.
So when I got my partial thumbprint, that's what I got on the bullet casings. And
Right.
as I was looking further into it, I actually got 2 bullet casings I found with his thumbprint on it. But no one's never known this.
And why wouldn't the FBI have taken those fingerprints?
Well, see, if like with his fingerprints, okay, remember them were brass and copper,
Mhm.
bullet casings.
Yeah.
He can wipe them off, and all they're going to do is dust, and all they're trying to find is the oils from your skin. But with him wiping it off, it's going to be gone. The oil's going to be gone, but the acid and stuff still from your skin is still on that bullet casing, and as it ages, it'll start showing your thumbprint on it.
Okay, so it was.
Unless you use brass cleaner.
So these photographs were taken at a later date,
Mm-hmm.
and so that by that time the prints were showing, but nobody noticed it.
Yeah, no one noticed it.
Nobody noticed it except Leroy Blevins, or your friend Guy Cooper.
Guy Cooper was the first one. But he went, you know, he looked at it, he seen it, looked like.
Now, when did you release the information on the bullet casings?
Last October.
Last October.
Mm-hmm.
So this is a recent find.
Mm-hmm.
And there's a lot of evidence still at Dealey Plaza, right?
Yeah.
I mean, a lot of the bullets could still be in the ground or area around there. There is a photograph in the book where some investigators are finding an actual bullet in the grass. And that's the one that's over by the manhole cover, right?
Yeah, that's one of the shots that struck the manhole cover.
Right. But there could still be bullets,
Mm-hmm.
and also there still could be even the real rifle that
Yeah.
was used in the assassination could still be present at Dealey Plaza.
Yes.
All right, explain that to us.
Okay, when I was analyzing the backyard photo,
Mm-hmm.
the Carcano rifle that they found, actually they said it was a Mauser, but it wasn't a Mauser. It really was a Carcano. At first, it
Right.
looked like a Mauser, and I thought it myself was being a Mauser.
Right, they misidentified
But-
it initially.
Yeah, so when I started studying it more, and I started looking over it, and I found out, no, it was actually a Carcano rifle.
Mm-hmm.
And so when I started analyzing the backyard photo, I found out the Carcano rifle that they found on the 6th floor of the Texas School Depository wasn't the same one that Oswald was holding in his hand.
Right, looked like a different rifle.
Yes, and so I also found out that the revolver that also Oswald had on his hip that day in the image was not the same one that they found on him as well.
Right.
So when I started doing more research on it, I found out that actually Oswald had another revolver before he had that one,
Mm-hmm.
before he got the one in March of '63,
Right.
which he sold to his brother for $10.
And did he get the Carcano also in March of '63?
He got the Carcano and a revolver both in '63, March of '63.
So the gun in the backyard photo couldn't have been the one that he ordered
No,
a month later.
no, because that image was developed February the 5th, 1 month
Right.
before he even ordered that.
And didn't Oswald himself develop the image? He was
Yeah, that's why
working
he was
at a
fired.
Photoshop, and
Yeah, he was fired over it.
because he developed his own films. And
And making license photo IDs.
okay,
So he got fired for that because he wasn't doing his job, and he's the one that actually developed them backyard photos.
so there's 2 different rifles,
Mhm.
and there's 2 different revolvers.
Yeah,
The revolver that he had in the backyard photo had a black handle on it, and he sold that to his brother Robert.
he sold that to his brother Robert, which is also, I think, he's selling it through auction right now.
And that was before the assassination.
Yeah,
And then, so we got the other second revolver, which that would have been the revolver he used to kill Officer Tippit.
yes.
Of course, we don't have any direct 100% evidence that he did kill Tippit, right?
No, because I never actually looked into that.
Right. But in all likelihood, if he was a participant in the assassination, that seems to be what happened, because they arrested him, and that was the route in that where he would have been possibly at the time. Or,
Yeah.
Yeah.
But they said, well, no, he took this route, he took that route. You know, like I said, when we're doing investigations or when you're doing research on anything, you have to put yourself in their shoes right along with
Right.
what, other people saying, because it's like you got to wing away from what this person said or that person said and see what you can find.
So, yeah, Oswald actually created, like you said, the fake IDs and everything. He created a fake ID for himself under the name of A.J. Heidel, and he ordered the rifle and a scope, and under that name.
And a revolver as well.
And a revolver, and but then when he was arrested, they actually found that ID card and the money order receipt where he had placed the order on him, so he wasn't too smart. I mean, he kind of held on to the fake ID a little too long.
But then again,
Now, the reason he was doing that was so that that rifle couldn't be traced to him.
Yeah, but they also said they was planning on him too as well.
That what was planted?
They said they planted that ID on him.
Oh, that was said it was
And,
planted.
yeah, that's why I said a lot of people, a lot of stories that's told about the assassination, it was always planted on him.
I mean, Oswald had to be a totally monumental idiot. I mean, he planned that he was going to have this decoy rifle, right? And that's the rifle that they found.
Yes.
And but in fact, you found pictures of above the windowsill. There's pry marks on a piece of wood up there. What's that about?
Well, that's a hollow box
Okay.
above the window, right where the sniper's nest is.
Mm-hmm.
And when I was doing my investigation, I was sitting there saying, okay, well, I put everything back to where they found it. The box where they had their palm print found and their fingerprint found, the palm print on the other box, and the
Right.
bullet casings with Oswald's thumbprints on it. Put them back in location just to get the feel of what it looked like.
Right.
So after I did that, and I was like, well, he had the time to set the decoy up because that rifle was never fired that they found. And all they had was the palm print of Oswald's palm print on it, and that was it.
Mm-hmm.
So he had the time to be able to set up that decoy because they found the rifle was placed over here, the box pushed up against this way, and 2 other boxes pushed over top of it. The clip for the rifle was found over here.
Right.
If they had said he only had 10 seconds after he fired last shot, there's no way he's going to be able to put that rifle there and then run down the steps.
Mm-mm.
So that's why Oswald says, when everybody went downstairs, he brought out the decoy first. Set up the decoy in a fake route. Then he had his rifle that he brought to work with him that day. After he took his shots, he placed that rifle back to the location where he hid the other rifle at. And the only place there's 2 places it could have been, either around the elevator area or that box above the window, because there's a crack across that wood there, and there's a pry mark here, and there's a pry mark there.
So the gun could still, the real assassination weapon could still be there, and we're going to talk about that in segment 3 here. But the book is called The JFK Assassination Report, and you actually have a companion book people can order as well on Amazon and Kindle books that has all the colorized images, so they can actually get 2 different books. But it's 353 pages, the book, and it's got just a ton of amazing images that tell the story of what really happened November 22nd, 1963, the assassination of 35th President of the United States. Leroy, thanks for being on Mystery Us.
Yeah, thank you.